This is Vintage Story, or as my friends call it,
Shit, is this Minecraft 2.0?
Vintage Story is a realistic survival crafting game. Like, realistic. To the point where you have to skin animals and manually create your own pottery. In survival games like this, a common characteristic is the use of authoritarian, capitalist free markets to rule over the workers. So today, me and my fellow socialists decided to make a nation where we divided our government up into 3 worker unions with equal votes. These are the Farmers Union, the Miners Union, and the Builders Union. Now of course, for this to work, we will need to convince more people on the server to join our great nation, which we of course named Goon Nation. For this, we needed some great propaganda, so I got to work. Okay, but first, let me explain the game of Vintage Story. Because even though it just looks like a very detailed Minecraft mod, it is actually a pretty complex game. The best way to describe Vintage Story is that it is a post-apocalyptic world where these entities called the Drifters roam the earth, and we have to make our way up from the Stone Age up to the Steel Age, and maybe even take the fight back to the Drifters. And importantly, doing so in a society inspired by Marxist ideals and communist economic theory. Okay, so I can hear you asking, what is communism? On Wikipedia it says that communism is a socio-political, philosophical and economic ideology within the socialist movement. But that is still pretty unclear, so let's just use the description stated by Britannica, which says it's a political and economic doctrine that aims to replace private property and a profit-based economy with public ownership and communal control of at least the major means of production. The way we will apply this theory is by splitting Goon Nation up into 3 unions. The Farmers Union, which I'm in charge of, the Builders Union, led by Fask, and lastly the Miners Union by Tesco. We will not have a standing military, because they tend to serve imperialist or authoritarian interests. Instead, if Goon Nation is threatened, our working class will form a temporary 4th union, the Revolutionary Militia, to defend the revolution. Every second real-life day, the unions hold a meeting where the leaders discuss policies, plans and politics. Here, every union has 1 vote, meaning unless we are in times of war, we can never have a draw, since there are only 3 votes to go around. Lastly, and most importantly, all resources belong to the nation. This means that the crops you farm, the copper you mine, and even the pickaxe you use to mine it with is not your property, and you will have to share it equally with your comrades, depending on everyone's needs. The 3 unions will also be responsible for stockpiling the weapons and armor in case of a threat to the revolution, because you can never know when an enemy will strike. We started off by spawning in the world and attempting to find a place to build our nation. After traveling around for about 20 minutes, we decided on settling here because of the natural water, which is beneficial for farming and good close by potential for easy foraging. Unfortunately, the rest of the nation couldn't get on for the day, so I started setting up a little campsite by myself. I built a campfire, some chests, and the beginnings of what will eventually become our warehouse. After that, I got off the server for the day. On day 2, Fast joined me, so I went to spawn to greet her, and with went to spawn, I mean I got mauled to death by a grizzly bear. Holy f***, okay, ik ben dood. One more important detail about the server is that it does have some mods installed, including a fantasy race mod which lets you play as different Lord of the Rings inspired races such as dwarves or elves. This only really affects your stats with, for example, a dwarf getting more ore from mining and a goblin getting more loot from foresting. Naturally, I chose to be a goblin, while Fask chose to be a hobbit, which gives her buffs in carpenting. Now, one important rule we want to emphasize in the great Goon Nation is that we do not accept racism of any kind. We are all born equal, so we should behave and be treated equal. After Fast joined, our productivity greatly increased. she started gathering some basic resources while also planning and starting construction on the warehouse. While she was doing that, I started work on our farm. Farming in Vintage Story is very important because of the game having seasons. And in the winter, it will be too cold for anything to live. So our first objective is just to make sure we are prepared for winter with enough food in storage, some basic metal work, and enough warm clothing to make it to spring next year. After the farm, we also started making our first clay mold, deciding it would be best to focus on creating a copper pickaxe first, the mold of which we put in a pit kiln to harden. The next day we realized that if we want to be able to divide our work evenly, we would need to invite more comrades to join the union. Thus, we started our secondary propaganda campaign. And later that same day, Comrade Tesco, leader of the Miners Guild, joined and chose to be a dwarf for the extra mining buffs. After a few hours, we had a solid foundation, but not everyone on the server welcomed our ideology. After receiving some semi-negative comments about our nation's economic and ideological beliefs, we decided that we need to start arming ourselves fast, in case of any future hostile actions from this capitalist nation calling themselves the Empire. For now, we just sent some comrades to keep an eye on the Empire, which we will call the Expeditionary Force. Not only will we have to deal with a tense arms race with the Empire, but if we want to survive winter, we're going to need at least copper tools. For this reason, we unanimously decided to focus on industrializing our nation as much as possible before the dawn of winter. So, the Builders Guild started construction on what will eventually be our workshop, while me and Tesco attempted to obtain the copper necessary to create a copper anvil. The next day, we finally got enough copper to create the anvil, and we instantly got to work upgrading some of our most important tools. While we were busy with this, troubling news came from our expeditionary force, claiming that the Empire is already in the Bronze Age. This means that they're advancing at rapid speeds. Not only have they surpassed us in technology, but whispers from our comrades suggest that they have twice our numbers. If they decide to strike first, we may not stand a chance. So the Miners' Union instantly started working on expanding our copper works, while the Farmers' Union prepared for winter, needing to build a cellar under the warehouse to keep vegetables, meats, and grains from spoiling during and leading up to the winter. And finally, the Builders' Union got to work with their biggest project yet, the Town Hall, where all the union meetings, announcements, and speeches will be held. By now it was the beginning of November, and in some areas of the land, snow had started to fall. So, we held our first union meeting, in a dimly lit cellar under the warehouse. Unfortunately, the Miners' Union was preoccupied with other tasks, but the meeting could not be postponed, due to its urgency. So, the Farmers' Union and the Builders' Union commenced the meeting without the miners.
Our comrades in the Expeditionary Force reported seeing a glowing rift in the sky. They claim the Empire has opened something
they shouldn't have.
I think that we need to start making more weapons to fight off the drifters.
Yeah, better weapons would be a good idea.
So I was planning on starting to make copper weapons for us.
Okay. We also need to collect a lot of thatch for the roofs, because otherwise we won't have enough buildings done.
I can do that in the morning. I'm gonna go out to scavenge.
Yeah. And how do you want to ration the food?
I think for now it's pretty best if we just keep it in the containers, in the vessels, storage vessels, and on the shelves.
Yeah.
When do you think the house is gonna be finished? The town hall?
The town hall, yeah. It depends on how quick we can collect thatch, because it's quite a big building.
Alright.
So
How many days do you estimate that would take?
3.
Alright.
3 in-game
Perfect.
days.
Perfect. Yes. Okay, I think that can conclude the first meeting. The winter hit way earlier than any of us had anticipated. In a matter of days, the soil was frozen hard as rock and the houses and trees were covered in snow. The Farmers Union fought tirelessly to gather what little food they could, enough to last perhaps 2 months. Beyond that, every day will be a battle, not against armies, but against hunger itself. But until then, the factories of Goon Nation will not pause. Every axe forged, every plank of wood placed, they are the weapons of the workers against nature, the empire, and the drifters. Historically, capitalism often promotes individual survival, but communism thrives through unity and cooperation. Under the empire's rule, the weak are left to freeze. In Goon Nation, the strength of the many carries the few. During the climax of Fall, the empire managed to somehow tear a rift in reality, and the drifters, who were before just a nuisance that would show up from time to time, are now a daily threat, appearing in greater numbers than ever before. The next day, it started freezing even harder, and parts of the lake next to Goon Nation completely froze. Due to this intense weather, the Builders Union had to completely stop their construction on the town hall until winter was over, turning a 3-day project into a 3-month endeavor. Even though building and farming was completely not doable, the forges of the workshop burned on in our ever-escalating arms race with the Empire. Around mid-January, our food rations ran thin, and we needed a miracle to help us get through the winter. But because a miracle wasn't going to happen, we decided to take immediate action and organize our second union meeting. Comrades of the Workers' Union, we are almost completely out of food.
Oops.
And we are severely under-equipped in case of a sudden attack from the Empire.
Well, the food problem's the main one, I think, because, we're all gonna start to die. I'm also about to start starving to death. We can't really forage, because obviously it's the middle of winter, so all the plants have died up.
Okay,
I'm stuck on the...
so how do we realistically want to stop this?
I think by foraging more outwards, not in our own region here, but like actually going further away.
We might need to raid the Empire.
Raiding the Empire with our current equipment.
Didn't you
probably
just
isn't
say
the
that we are
best idea.
severely ill-equipped?
Yes, however, we could strike by night.
From the information I have acquired from my sources, they want to build a wall around their village.
To defend themselves against
To
us.
defend themselves against us, yes.
Not only that, they also have bronze weaponry and they outnumber us at least 2 to 1, maybe even 3 to 1.
So
Yeah.
they build a wall to keep them safe.
They build a wall to keep us out.
Ironic.
Why not?
Strike when they least expect it then, I guess.
Which would be?
Right now.
Alright, let's go! With our rations dwindling, we were left with no choice. A dangerous raid into enemy territory. We had no way of knowing what awaited us. The Empire's watchful eyes could return at any moment.
What? What is it?
Oh! Oh! Hold still.
Okay, we gotta be fast about.
What are we grabbing?
I found turnips and onions. I'm just gonna steal these onions.
I'm just gonna-
Okay, I got some of their food. Let's go.
I just found a cave with native copper bits.
Ba 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 ba
Okay,
ba ba.
I'm gonna mark
Ba ba
it
ba
right
ba 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 ba. The Empire's wealth was stolen from the people. Today, we reclaimed what was rightfully ours. Food for the workers, not for the hoarding ruling class. We stole just the amount we needed and nothing more, so they wouldn't notice it was gone. Surviving through the rest of winter wasn't that difficult. We mostly spent our time chasing away drifters and predatory animals while passing the time by mining and eating. As winter finally comes to a close and the weather starts becoming more hospitable, through unity we endured, through action we prevailed, and the revolution marches on.